The convention was unlike anything Sophia Carter had ever seen. High ceilings, marble floors, a sea of power suits, a room filled with the elite, CEOs, politicians, and media moguls. It wasn't just a business summit, it was a battlefield. She adjusted the sleek black dress that fit her like armor. The badge pinned to her chest read CFO, but she felt more like an imposter. One last deal, one final meeting. Then everything would change. Her boss, Richard Hale, towered over the room, shaking hands, flashing his signature smirk. A man who built an empire from the shadows. A man who never lost. Until now. Sophia clutched the folder in her hands. Inside, proof. Evidence that would bring him down. But something felt off. A shift in the air. Eyes followed her, whispers in the distance. Her gut twisted. Then she saw it. A security team. Moving toward her. And behind them, Richard Hale, smirking. "Ms. Carter." The lead guard's voice was flat. "You need to come with us." Sophia's heart pounded. "Excuse me?" Hale took a step forward, shaking his head. "I trusted you." Confusion flickered, then cold realization. The folder in her hands, the one filled with evidence against him, was gone. Instead, the document before her showed transactions, stolen funds, her signature, a setup. "You're making a mistake," she said, voice steady. "No, Sophia," Hale murmured. "You did." The room blurred, faces turned away. Colleagues she'd once trusted refused to meet her eyes. Then came the final blow. Handcuffs clicked around her wrists. News traveled fast. CFO Sophia Carter accused of embezzlement. Once a rising star, now a fraud. Everything she built, gone. Her accounts frozen, her career shattered, her name dragged through the mud. And Hale, untouched, watching from his glass tower as she crumbled. She spent hours in interrogation, days battling lawyers, weeks locked in legal limbo. Then, finally, a lifeline. A voice on the other end of a burner phone. "I know the truth." Sophia's grip tightened. "Who is this?" A pause. Then, "I can help you bring him down." The meeting took place in a dimly lit parking garage. Classic, cliché, but effective. Sophia's informant was careful. A hoodie, a mask, a voice altered by a scrambler. "You were never meant to win," the voice said. "Hale planned this for months. He used you as a scapegoat." Sophia's fists clenched. "I need proof." "You already had it. He just made sure it pointed at you." The informant slid a USB drive across the table. "This is the real story." Sophia plugged it into her laptop that night. And what she found? Worse than she imagined. Fraud, corruption, bribery, a tangled web of offshore accounts and secret deals. And at the center, Richard Hale. It started with whispers. A leaked document here. A cryptic tip to an investigative journalist there. Sophia played it smart, careful. She fed them just enough to make noise, but not enough to be traced back to her. And then, the final strike. A board meeting. Sophia walked in like a ghost from the past. Hale's smirk faltered. She dropped a thick folder onto the table. "Offshore accounts," she said, voice calm. "Illegal deals. Bribes." Hale laughed, but it was forced. "You're desperate, Sophia." "No, Richard." She met his eyes. "I'm smart." Right on cue, the board's legal counsel checked his phone, then paled. Sophia tilted her head. "Let me guess. The FBI." Hale shot to his feet as the doors burst open. Agents flooded the room. Richard Hale had spent years playing the system. But the system had finally played him. The headlines changed. Richard Hale arrested in massive corporate scandal. Former CFO Sophia Carter clears her name. It should have been the end, but something nagged at her. An inconsistency. The informant, the missing pieces, the betrayal that had felt too perfect. And then her phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. You're running out of time. She's not who you think she is." Sophia's stomach dropped. She looked at the name on her screen. The informant. A woman she trusted. A woman who had been one step ahead all along. The room was spinning. The weight of betrayal crushed her chest like a vice. Olivia staggered back, barely registering the chaos around her. The convention, the place where she was supposed to find answers, had become a death trap. Sirens wailed in the distance. The air was thick with smoke, the acrid scent of burnt fabric and desperation clinging to her skin. She clutched the flash drive tighter in her palm, the only thing left that could expose the truth. Across the room, Logan still held the gun, his eyes dark with something she couldn't name. Regret? Guilt? No, something colder. "You need to come with me, Olivia," he said, voice eerily calm, her stomach twisted. "Come with you?" She shook her head. "After everything?" She glanced at the fallen body of Senator Wallace, blood pooling beneath him, the very man who had promised justice, silenced before he could reveal the truth. She was next. Without another word, Olivia bolted for the emergency exit, shoving past panicked attendees. Logan swore, but she didn't look back. The door slammed open, and she ran. The cold night air hit her like a slap. The parking lot was nearly empty, save for a few black SUVs idling near the curb. Too sleek, too polished. Government! Her pulse pounded. She had minutes, maybe seconds, before Logan's people caught up. She sprinted toward the nearest car, heart hammering. Just as she reached it, a figure stepped into her path. Tall, hooded, a low voice. "Get in." Before she could think, the stranger yanked the car door open and pushed her inside. The engine roared to life, tires screeching against asphalt. "Who the hell? No time!" The driver cut in. "They're coming." Through the rear window, Olivia saw Logan burst out of the building, gun in hand. A second later, the SUVs peeled out, headlights glaring. The chase was on. "Who are you?" Olivia demanded, breathless. The driver's gloved hands gripped the wheel. "The only person keeping you alive." The city blurred past, neon lights flashing like warning signs. Olivia fumbled for her phone, but the driver shot her a sharp glance. "Don't, they're tracking everything." She swallowed hard. "Then where are we going?" The driver didn't answer. He took a sharp turn, cutting through an alleyway, tires skidding. Behind them, the SUVs followed relentlessly. Gunshots cracked the air. The rear windshield exploded. "Hold on," the driver growled. The car lurched forward, barreling onto a side road leading out of the city. The SUVs weren't slowing down. If anything, they were gaining. "There's a safe house," the driver muttered. "But we have to shake them first." Olivia clenched her fists. "Who are you?" she asked again. A beat of silence. Then, "Your only ally left." Something in his tone made her shiver. He wasn't just some hired gun. He knew more than he was letting on. Before she could press further, the driver yanked the wheel hard, sending them careening down an abandoned service road. A tunnel loomed ahead, its entrance swallowed in darkness. The SUVs followed. Olivia's heart slammed against her ribs. "That's a dead end. Not if we time it right." The driver floored the gas. The tunnel swallowed them whole, darkness closing in. Behind them, the SUVs roared closer, headlights bouncing off the damp walls. Then, a sudden, deafening explosion. Flames engulfed the tunnel's entrance. The shockwave sent Olivia forward, but the driver kept control, skidding the car to a sharp stop deep inside the tunnel. Silence. Then, static crackled from the driver's radio. A voice, calm, controlled. "Target secured. Phase 2 begins." Olivia's stomach dropped. She turned slowly to face the driver, realization dawning too late. The trap hadn't been for Logan. It had been for her. The abandoned airstrip was deathly silent except for the distant rumble of thunder. Kara pressed a hand to her wounded side, her breath shallow but controlled. She had no time for weakness, not now. Lucas walked beside her, his eyes scanning the darkness, one hand gripping his gun. "We're running out of time," Kara muttered. "We need a plan." Lucas didn't look at her. He was still replaying the message he'd received. "She's not who you think she is." His grip tightened on the gun. "First," he said, voice low, "we need to know who's playing us." Kara turned to him, reading the tension in his face. Her jaw clenched. "You think I'm lying to you?" "I think I can't afford to trust the wrong person." For a moment, neither spoke. Then Kara straightened, eyes flashing. "Then let's find out who really set us up." They reached the rusting hangar, its doors slightly ajar. Inside, Daniel paced, phone in hand. When he saw them, relief flickered across his face, quickly replaced by urgency. "Took you long enough," Daniel said. He turned the phone toward them. "We've got a bigger problem." The screen showed live security footage from the convention. The place was in ruins, but something was off. Daniel rewound the footage, slowing it down. The attack. It wasn't random. It was staged. Kara's breath caught. "They framed me." Daniel nodded grimly, and they almost succeeded. Lucas studied the footage, then stiffened. "Wait, rewind that." Daniel scrolled back. The grainy image of a man stepping into the light filled the screen. Vincent. Kara's heart slammed against her ribs. "No, he's dead." Lucas shot her a hard look, searching for any sign of deception. Kara swallowed, shaking her head. "I swear, I didn't know." Daniel exhaled sharply. "Well, he's back." Before anyone could react, a gunshot rang out. Glass shattered. The phone slipped from Daniel's grip. A red dot flickered across his chest. "Sniper!" Lucas yelled, tackling Kara to the ground. Bullets tore through the hangar walls. Daniel dove behind a stack of crates, the air filled with the sharp stench of gunpowder. "We're sitting ducks!" Daniel hissed. Lucas scanned the area. Outside, a black SUV screeched to a stop. The doors flew open, and men in tactical gear spilled out, weapons raised. "We're outgunned," Kara whispered. Lucas pulled something from his belt, a grenade. Not for long. He yanked the pin and lobbed it toward the SUV. The explosion rocked the ground, sending flames and debris into the air. The shockwave knocked the gunman off balance. "Move!" Daniel shouted. Kara winced as she pushed herself up. Blood dripped from between her fingers, but she forced herself forward. They sprinted through the smoke, dodging bullets. Another SUV skidded in front of them, tires screeching. The back door swung open. Inside, a mysterious driver, face obscured by the shadows. "Get in if you want to live." Kara hesitated. Lucas didn't. No time to argue. He grabbed her wrist and pulled her inside. The moment the doors shut, the driver floored the gas. The SUV peeled away, leaving fire and chaos behind. Kara leaned against the seat, breathing hard, pain clawing at her ribs. She looked up at the driver, her voice barely above a whisper. "Who are you?" The driver glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "Let's just say, I know who set you up." Lucas tensed. "And?" The driver smirked. "You're not gonna like the answer." Sophia stared at the message on her phone. The words blurred as her pulse pounded in her ears. "You're running out of time. She's not who you think she is." She clenched her jaw. The informant had given her everything she needed to take Hale down. But if this message was true, if she had been played again, then she was still a pawn in someone else's game. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. "Who are you?" she typed. 3 dots appeared. Then it disappeared. Silence. Sophia cursed under her breath and pushed away from her desk. She needed answers. Now, the city pulsed outside the safe house window. Neon lights, endless movement. But inside, everything was still. Sophia pulled up the files the informant had given her. She combed through them again, searching for anything she might have missed. There, a small discrepancy. A single offshore transaction marked with a different signature, almost identical to Hale's. Almost. Her breath caught. Someone else had been pulling strings behind the scenes. A name flashed in her mind. A possibility she hadn't considered. Could it be her? Sophia slid into a booth at a quiet bar downtown. Across from her sat the informant. For months, she had been Sophia's unseen ally. But now, doubt wrapped around Sophia like a noose. "Why did you help me?" Sophia asked, voice steady. The informant smiled. "Because Richard Hale needed to fall, and you were the perfect weapon." Sophia's blood turned to ice. "You never cared about justice." The woman shrugged. "Justice is subjective. Power is real. And now, with Hale gone, there's a vacuum. Someone has to fill it." Sophia's mind raced. She had been so focused on taking Hale down, she never saw what came next. "You used me," Sophia whispered. The informant leaned forward, her smile widening. "You used yourself. I just gave you the tools." Sophia gripped the edge of the table. She had been a pawn. Again. Sophia pushed out of the bar, her mind a storm of rage and realization. Then her phone vibrated again. Another message. "You need to run, now." A shiver ran down her spine. She looked up. Across the street, two men in dark suits stepped out of a black SUV. Their eyes locked onto her. Sophia's heart pounded. She turned, slipping into the alley, breaking into a sprint. Footsteps followed. The game wasn't over. It was just beginning. Sophia's pulse thundered in her ears as she sprinted through the darkened alley. Behind her, the heavy footsteps of the men in suits echoed off the brick walls. Too close, too fast. She darted around a corner, her boots skidding on damp pavement. A rusted fire escape ladder loomed overhead. Without thinking, she jumped, grabbing onto the metal rungs. Her arms burned as she hauled herself up, just as the men rounded the corner. "Where is she?" one of them barked. Sophia pressed her back against the cold metal, forcing herself to stay silent. Below, the men scanned the alley. One of them pulled out a phone. She couldn't stay here. Moving fast, she climbed to the rooftop and sprinted across the gravel surface. She needed to disappear, now. The city stretched out before her, endless streets, flickering neon lights, and the hum of a world oblivious to the danger she was in. She had to lose them. She had to find safety. Her safe house was compromised. Her allies were questionable at best. That left only one option. She grabbed her phone and dialed a number she hadn't used in years. It rang once, twice. Then a familiar voice answered. "Didn't think I'd hear from you again?" "I need your help," she said, breathless. Now. A pause. Then. "Where are you?" She gave the location and hung up. She had no choice but to trust him. Minutes later, she crouched behind a stack of shipping crates at an abandoned loading dock. Her contact would be here soon. She just had to hold out a little longer. A faint crunch of gravel. She tensed, gun in hand. A shadow moved near the entrance. The men from before, closing in. They hadn't lost her after all. Sophia's breath came fast. She gripped her weapon tighter, finger hovering over the trigger. If this was the end, she wouldn't go down without a fight. Then, a new set of headlights cut through the darkness. An engine roared to a stop. A figure stepped out. Not her contact. Not a stranger. Her heart clenched as recognition hit her like a bullet. "You?" she whispered. The figure smirked. "Surprised? You shouldn't be. After all, you walked right into my trap." Sophia's breath caught in her throat. The figure standing before her, bathed in the harsh glow of headlights, was the last person she ever expected to see. Liam, her closest ally, the one person she still trusted, or at least she had. The smirk on his face sent a chill down her spine. "You should have known better, Sophia." Her grip on the gun tightened, but she didn't raise it. Not yet. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me this isn't what it looks like. Liam took a slow step forward, hands in his pockets. Casual. Too casual. That depends. What does it look like to you? The men from the alley flanked him now, weapons at the ready. Sophia's stomach twisted. She had been set up. Her mind raced. The shipping crates provided some cover, but not enough. The dock was a dead end. And Liam knew exactly how she fought, how she thought, how she planned. He had been playing her from the start. Her pulse pounded in her ears. How long? She demanded. How long have you been working for them? Liam chuckled, shaking his head. You always did ask the wrong questions. The real one is, why did you trust me in the first place? Rage flared in her chest, but she forced herself to stay calm, to think. She had one shot, one moment to turn this around. Liam tilted his head, almost amused. You're trapped, Sophia. No backup, no way out. Be smart about this. Her fingers twitched around the gun. You know me better than that. His smile faltered, just for a second. Sophia moved, a flash of movement, her body twisting low as she fired. The first shot slammed into the nearest thug's shoulder. He crumpled with a grunt. The second shot grazed another's leg. Then, gunfire erupted. She dove behind the crates as bullets splintered the wood, sending sharp fragments flying. Her ears rang. Heart pounded. Liam's voice cut through the chaos. Don't make this harder than it has to be, Sophia. She peeked around the edge of the crate, breath coming fast. 3 men still standing. Liam, calm in the middle of it all. Her options were slipping away. Then, a sharp whistle. A new presence. A new player in the game. The gunfire stopped. Liam stiffened. And from the shadows, a voice Sophia hadn't heard in years. I think that's enough fun for one night. The voice sent a shockwave through Sophia's system. A voice she hadn't heard in years, one that didn't belong here. Her grip on the gun tightened as her eyes darted to the shadows. From behind the stacks of crates, a figure emerged, confident, deliberate. The dim glow of the dock lights revealed sharp, calculating eyes and a smirk that hadn't changed. Gabriel Vaughn. Sophia's breath hitched. He was supposed to be dead. Liam cursed under his breath, his stance shifting. For the first time, his confidence wavered. You? Gabriel let out a low chuckle, stepping fully into the light. Miss me? He looked at Sophia then, his smirk fading slightly. Looks like you got yourself in a bit of a mess. Sophia forced herself to breathe. Gabriel Vaughn was more than just a ghost from her past. He was dangerous, unpredictable. The last time they had crossed paths, he had disappeared without a trace, presumed dead after an ambush gone wrong. And now he was standing in front of her, very much alive. I don't know what game you're playing, Gabriel, she said, keeping her voice steady. But I'm not in the mood for surprises. He tilted his head, feigning disappointment. Now that hurts, after all we've been through. Liam's men were tense now, shifting uneasily. Even Liam himself looked rattled. You should walk away, Vaughn. This doesn't concern you. Gabriel sighed, glancing around as if bored. See, that's where you're wrong, because anything involving Sophia concerns me. Sophia felt the weight of the moment pressing down. Gabriel wasn't here by accident, and that meant trouble. Liam was clearly thrown off balance, and Sophia knew she had to use it. She turned to Gabriel, voice low. If you're here to help, prove it. Gabriel's smirk widened, but his eyes darkened. Oh, I intend to? Without another word, he moved, fast. Before Liam or his men could react, Gabriel struck. A quick, brutal blow sent the nearest thug sprawling. A gunshot rang out, too late. Gabriel twisted, slamming another into the side of a crate, disarming him in a fluid motion. Sophia took her chance. She fired at the last remaining man, clipping his shoulder. He fell back with a cry. Then it was just Liam. Liam exhaled sharply, rolling his shoulders. He wasn't panicked, not yet. But his eyes flicked between Sophia and Gabriel, calculating. "You think this changes anything?" Liam said, voice cold. Gabriel wiped blood from his knuckles, smirking. "I think it changes everything." Sophia kept her gun trained on Liam. "You're out of moves. Surrender now, and maybe you walk away." Liam chuckled darkly. "You don't get it, do you? This was never about winning." Sophia's stomach dropped. From somewhere in the distance, a sharp, piercing alarm blared. A signal. Gabriel's expression hardened. "Damn it!" Sophia's instincts screamed at her. Liam had planned this. Every second they had wasted gave him the upper hand. Suddenly, the entire dock lit up with headlights. Engines roared. More of Liam's men, more than they could handle. Liam grinned. "Checkmate." Sophia's pulse pounded. Dozens of headlights beamed through the darkness, engines revving like growling beasts. Liam's reinforcements had arrived. Gabriel took a step back, jaw clenched. "This is bad." Sophia's grip tightened around her gun. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and trapped on the docks with nowhere to run. Liam exhaled slowly, his smirk widening. "You should have stayed out of this, Sophia. Now you'll die, just like everyone else who crosses me." But Sophia had been planning for this moment. "Not today," she muttered. With a sharp movement, she reached into her pocket and pressed a small button on her burner phone. Instantly, the air was filled with piercing sirens. Red and blue lights flashed through the misty night as armored SUVs and tactical units flooded the docks. The FBI had arrived. Liam's smirk vanished. His men hesitated, their weapons faltering. Sophia stepped forward. "I knew you'd call backup, Liam, so I brought my own." Agents poured from their vehicles, guns raised, orders were shouted. Liam's men dropped their weapons, surrendering as they realized the fight was over. Liam turned to run, but Gabriel lunged, grabbing him by the collar and slamming him against a shipping container. "Not so fast." Sophia leveled her gun at Liam's head. "It's over." Liam's eyes darted wildly. "You have no proof, no evidence." Sophia tossed a flash drive onto his chest. "Confessions, paper trails, video recordings, everything I needed to end you. You'll rot in a cell for the rest of your miserable life." The FBI agents seized Liam, slamming handcuffs around his wrists. Gabriel exhaled, stepping beside her. That was a hell of a gamble. Sophia watched as Liam was shoved into the back of an armored vehicle. Justice was worth the risk. As the agents secured the scene, Gabriel turned to Sophia. "So what now?" She stared at the ocean, its waves crashing against the dock. "I disappear for a while. Make sure no one else tries to finish what Liam started." Gabriel nodded. "Smart." He hesitated before adding, "I could help." Sophia raised an eyebrow. "That depends. Can I trust you?" Gabriel smirked. "Guess you'll have to find out." Before she could respond, her phone buzzed. A message flashed across the screen. Unknown number. "This isn't over. You took one king off the board, but the game has just begun." Sophia's breath caught. She looked around, scanning the night. Gabriel frowned. "What is it?" She turned the screen toward him. His smirk faded. "Looks like you made some powerful enemies." Sophia inhaled deeply. The battle was won, but the war? That was just beginning.